Hello, today I'm going to talk about non-terrestrial encounters. So what is the content? Well, first of all, I prefer to use the term non-terrestrial instead of extraterrestrial because they are not extra, they are just different. So today's content, the first thing, I will mention something about the high sensory perception and the insights into other parallel worlds. Then I'm going to mention two important universal facts in relation to the unknown. And for the last, some examples of my contacts with the unknown. So let's go step by step. High sensory perception and the insights into other parallel worlds. When speaking about non-terrestrial, we cannot ignore the high sensory perception. Some people use extra sensory perception, but again, it's not extra, it's just different. So this high sensory perception reflects the enhanced detection capabilities in the area of the five senses: seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, and tasting, which often go beyond the physicality of our dimension here. However, under the high sensory perception are the most prevalent the wide range seeing and the wide range hearing. The wide range hearing includes mainly the hearing of solar radiations, for example, the Earth's magnetic field, and the hearing of the creative energy of the source when all is interactive with our human bodies and the backup level. But the wide range hearing allows us also the hearing of non-terrestrial beings from other parallel worlds, even though they can be invisible to us. However, especially the wide range seeing is the one that enables us the contacts with the unknown in the form of insights into other parallel worlds where diverse non-terrestrial beings are living. Of course, this wide range seeing includes also the seeing of auras, for example, of people and animals and so on. So, of course, the high sensory perception also includes a broader sensing of touch, taste, smell, and even the feeling of beings. Thus, the feeling or even smelling of non-terrestrials that are attending our experience, and even though they may be currently invisible or inaudible to us. Because some extraterrestrials can travel 2 dimensions, basically they can choose where to manifest. Further, it is a general characteristic that from a certain dimension we can well observe or feel those lower ones dimensions from here. For example, if we are embodied into a human being, we can well observe the worlds of plants, cells, or even molecules, so the lower dimensions. However, it is very difficult to observe the higher ones, the higher dimensions. For example, the world of astral etheric beings, and even less the world of the so-called higher selves or souls, non-physical worlds. Furthermore, the high sensory perception is experienced by people who have a high vibration of physical body, and this can be achieved most often with the high vibration of awareness. Most often when we are spiritually awakened and beyond, but it is not a precondition. As we realize that when the vibration of the physical body is close to the vibration of the etheric body, the following happens. First, the physical body becomes more sensible in the area of the five senses, and as such is detecting even the smallest stimuli that previously didn't. And further, when the vibration of the physical body is even higher, then we begin perceiving more and more through the etheric body. This means that we begin perceiving things that are out of our third dimension. As we realize that our etheric body has senses like the physical body, just that it is capable of a different perception of surroundings, both in terms of sensitivity as in the frequency spectrum of light, sound, and other sensations. So, like you noticed, I'm talking much about these astral insights, not just physical, non-terrestrial, not just physical, but for the etheric, astral, non-terrestrials, and so on. So, okay. Further, the astral insights occur most often spontaneously in the transition between sleeping and wakefulness, especially during the middle of the night when we are most connected to other worlds. Perhaps you've heard that this ranks psychology under the term hypnagogic state. Well, even you may see some astral being or even feel or hear some. So these won't be hearings or hallucinations, as everything is originating from somewhere. This is very important. Everything you can hear or see, even if other people are not hearing and not seeing, this exists on a certain parallel world. So this means that we can sometimes see beings or consciousnesses from other parallel worlds, realities, we can see diverse humanoid beings, elves, dwarves, ghosts, strange etheric astral beings in the form of animals or plants that are not similar to the Earth's one. And of course, you can see also our loved ones who have passed away. Yes, and all of this I classify under the term non-terrestrial too, because all of this is transcending the Earth of our dimension and sometimes even of our time. So all of these that I mentioned, astral etheric beings, dwarves, ghosts, spirits, all that transcends this dimension of our Earth is also, I also include under the term non-terrestrial. Okay, further realize that the astral insights are frequently happening also to people who are taking strong painkillers or anti-stress pills. Yes, because these medicines move us to a slightly higher and detached state, a little out of phase of this world, so that we are with our perception a little outside of the third dimension and thus open to other worlds and the non-terrestrial. For example, my mother, by using such painkillers, saw white mice, while my grandmother saw, like me, often creeping lizards, but also flying black butterflies. I saw this more frequently when I was spiritually awakened, because the more I also interested in such things, the more I think them. Yes, I saw mostly during the night when I woke up or in the morning. Most often in the morning. There were this lizard that were walking on the ceiling. Or I see, let's say, dead cats, the cats who passed away, or cats of the astral etheric worlds that are also non-terrestrials that were sleeping near me on on my bed. So further, this means that the encounters with non-terrestrials and spacecrafts are taking place through different dimensions or subdimensions, undertones, and different timelines. So, through different states of consciousness or awareness. However, the fact is that as a human being, we expect encounters with non-terrestrials most often directly in this dimension. For example, in the thing of physical beings and spaceships in the form of bolts and nuts, especially because we are in the period of our evolution when we are emphasizing the material. And this also thanks to the movie industry, which is convincing us that this is what is the most common and valid. Further, it's definitely true that we can establish contact with non-terrestrials also in the third dimension here, as life is present everywhere. But for our level of evolution, the encounters are most often taking place through the fourth dimension. So, through our night dreams, through our astral insights, through our astral projection, as well as through hypnotherapy, for example, regression, be it regression or progression, then through the technique of remote viewing, if you heard about this, and even through certain psychoactive substances, etc. As we realize that such subtle contacts with the unknown are enabling us the gradual transitioning to the physical contacts in the near future. But why do we actually need such a gradual and subtle transitioning first? Well, the cause is attributed to the fear against the unknown, in the inability to properly react to the unknown, in our possible shock or even violence against the unknown. Yes, in fact, just look around and you already see how much fear are growing certain people already toward other human races and the different believers, let alone to non-terrestrials, and of which are the benevolent non-terrestrials quite aware. So when is the right time, they will meet us. So at this period of evolution, the encounters are taking most often via this fourth dimension, and especially on an individual level. Further, well, exceptionally, we also hear about abductions by non-terrestrials, but the reason for such abduction cases is attributed to the mission that we have chosen to contribute to the evolution, to the development and the mutual research of species of all that is, or God. So, even if some, let's say, regressive alien species abduct us, we have chosen before embodiment. This. It's a part of our destiny. It can be also just a potential, yes. Thus, such abductions are a part of our mission and are most often destined to happen. but because we also have a lot of potential futures in meeting the unknown, I restore two important universal facts that are specifically relating to the encounters with the unknown. I was talking about these universal facts in the first lecture especially. Now I'm going to mention only two that are very relating with the meeting the unknown. The first fact is everything is coexisting. So that to clarify your picture. Regardless of our form of existence and focus into a particular word, it applies that everything is coexisting in timelessness in this moment. This means that although there are different words and forms of existence in different timelines or periods, everything is intertwined and especially everything is coexisting at this moment, irrespective of the linear time in the lower words like here. Thus, for example, the Earth's seeming past and future are unfolding right now, they exist right now, which also means that everything that we can imagine or visualize, and also everything that we cannot imagine or visualize because our mind is limited, all of this is already coexisting on a certain parallel world, in a certain approximation of our vision. So, still in other words, everything our mind can imagine or visualize, and everything it cannot, as our mind is limited, all of that is already coexisting on a certain parallel world right at this moment. Because the universe, the multiverse, or all that is God, includes an all endless variants of life. So, in the case of your visualization or visions of non-terrestrials, all of these beings are already coexisting on a certain parallel world and timeline in the approximation of your vision. And even though these beings and words aren't necessarily already experienced or lived at this moment by the higher self, they become just in the form of these frozen frames that I explained in the first two lectures. And the second universal fact in relation to the unknown, every equivalent vibration is compatible. This is even more important. Regardless of our form existence and focus into a particular word, it applies that every equivalent vibration is compatible. This means that are two equivalent vibrations compatible or attractive, while two sufficiently different, however, incompatible or repulsive. But the further we go into certain dimensions or densities, the greater is the proximity between the multiplicity of different vibrations. But it still applies that there is at least one equivalent or similar prevalent vibration that is uniting something together. For example, in simple words, now right at this lecture, it binds us the predominant vibration of mutual learning and or socializing, even though we have many other mutual incompatible vibrations within ourselves, that is, different beliefs, definitions, thoughts, emotions, fears, and inner resistances. Practically speaking, in relation to non-terrestrials, at such a prevalent vibration of awareness or worldview as you are vibrating on, at such a vibration you are also experiencing non-terrestrial encounters. So, if you have difficult encounters with non-terrestrials, then you have at least one common vibration, at least a common vibration of the mission that is uniting you together with these beings, non-terrestrials, but often also other vibration or programs that are currently keeping you together in mutual learning. It's everything about learning here and elsewhere. Okay. Now you may have a more clear picture why you are seeing certain things and why you are visualizing certain beings. Now let's go to the examples of my encounters with the unknown. The first experience that I remember was from the period of elementary school. I was simply sketching alien heads and how they look like. Well, I was sketching heads which were larger than the humans. They were oval in shape with a large skull and brain. They had a small lower part, including mouth and nose. They were very small. Their heads were completely gray. Where they stood out especially their black, big eyes in the shape of almond. Their eyes were arousing great awe. These beings acted extremely intelligent but also intimidating. Well, sometimes I showed these drawings to my sister, sometimes she just laughed, while at the other times she became quite absorbed in thought. I was sketching these drawings based on movies. I I wasn't sketching these drawings based on movies or cartoons, but by the simple knowing that such beings exist. After my spiritual awakening, I discovered that I was sketching the heads of the humanoid beings appointed as the Greys. I also discovered that there exist several types of these humanoid beings, both tall and short in stature, both benevolent as regressive, just as the human race. After my spiritual awakening, I also realized that I am in such beings also embodied, incarnated. So, they are the Greys are both benevolent as regressive. It depends, and even it could be in a single race, like human race. It's one race, but people are different. Some are violent, some have unconditional love, and it also applies for several alien species, non-terrestrials. Okay. Now let's go to the second example. The second experience with the unknown was the following. It happened in March 2010, not long after my spiritual awakening. This was a message or telepathic dream that continued as the astral insight. So it was. I dreamed that it suddenly appeared a huge screen in front of me on which was the head of an alien. The head looked exactly like those that I'd been drawing in the elementary school. The non-terrestrial being was something communicating to me, but I didn't understand the message. There were also some disturbances in the communication since the image on the screen was sleeping. And when I realized this experience, I slowly began waking up. But right then, I sensed many beings around my bed who were attending my event. The sensing of this being was expressing great awe. And when I was completely woken up, I still sensed their presence for a few seconds around my bed. It was quite scary. Well, this experience was the first of its kind and reflected my fear of the unknown beings. The fear is always originating from a certain belief or definition in our conscious and our backup level. But was my fear really justified? Well, with my reasoning, yes, but from the self's perspective, no. Thus, my conscience called for further cleaning. What regarded the experience itself, I was perceiving the non-terrestrials who were in the dimension of the astral world. They intended to communicate something to me, but in all likelihood, the purpose wasn't just the communication itself, but also the experience of the fear of the unknown beings. I will add here, by reasoning, what does it mean by reasoning? Was my fear really justified? Well, you have such a reasoning that is reflecting your beliefs and definitions. So reasoning depends on your beliefs and definitions. But from the high perspective of the self, where there are no definitions and beliefs, it's another perspective, another view on life. Okay. Further, not long after that astral insight, I started updating my relation to the unknown beings. This was a fear that I was cultivating for a long time, mainly due to the negative movie industry. But very soon I experienced the following very interesting message dream, where two aliens delivered me an important message. So it was. I dreamed that I was faced with two tall and slender aliens, while beside me it stood like a kind of a counterpart. And just everyone was armed. The aliens, me, myself, and the person beside me. But this time I didn't detect any fear, so that I didn't use my weapon. So also, the two aliens didn't use them. However, the one of the aliens, threw a kind of a ball into my forehead, which it suddenly transformed into my third eye. So it's a very message dream, telepathic dream. But dreams are other realities, other parallel worlds that are happening right now. So, well, this is my explanation. This dream has a powerful element, the so-called third eye or the portal. Our portal is located between the physical eyes, but slightly higher on the bottom of our forehead. The opening of the portal represents the ability to see the higher or the bigger picture of our existence. A man with an open portal is aspiring for unconditional love and unity, and not for violence or even killing. Thus, this dream very well revealed that the overcoming of violence is an expression of great power. Check more about this third eye in the previous lecture about the symptoms of rising awareness. Okay, next. Next, the following astral insight that I experienced really accelerated my heartbeat. So it was. I just woke up in the middle of the night, but there was still some moonlight. And suddenly I saw a creature beside my bed that was observing me. The creature was about 3 feet high and far from attractive because it had a wrinkled face, red eyes, and long curly gray hair. It was like some kind of horrible old woman. And then I immediately lifted myself up on my bed, moved backward, and turned on the light. But as soon as I turned on the light, the creature disappeared. My heart was pounding terribly. And not long after this experience, I had another contact with an unknown being. My heart was again pounding terribly. I just woke up in the middle of the night, but this time in almost complete darkness, but I still saw enough. And I immediately felt the presence of a creature on my bed, right next to my head. Of this creature, I saw mostly its legs, and they were very, very thin and greenish and brown in color. The creature was again of a very small stature, but as soon as the creature realized that I woke up, it quickly ran to the end of my bed, toward my feet, and there it jumped into the air and disappeared. I felt this every step of how they were penetrating inside my soft bedding in the winter. In fact, I heard even the rustling while it ran. And just before the creature disappeared, it was seen only a bright flash, like the flash of a camera, through entire my bedroom, that was followed by a high beep sound, and everything was over. My heart was pounding terribly. Now my explanation of these two experiences, very simple. Yes, amid such experiences, many heroes would pee in their pants. In fact, it's really difficult to get rid of the fear of the unknown, but certainly we can get rid of the violence against the unknown, or against the different, isn't it? If you reprogram yourself, if you leave your obsolete definitions and beliefs. Thus, I was visibly scared of these two experiences, but nevertheless, these two experiences further showed me that we aren't alone in this infinite universe, multiverse, all that is. And I was very thankful for these two experiences, nonetheless. However, the first experience, the wrinkled old woman, it was also reflecting me in my life. In fact, similarly attracts together, like I said, that similar vibrations are attractive. So this wrinkled old woman, it was also reflecting me in my life. Yes, because I was having high inner, in that period, I was having high inner resistance toward what I was seeing. So the red eyes, of her red eyes. I was having great inner resistance toward my job, co-workers, and so on. I was having much pain, uh, burns in my eyes. My eyes were burning, and so on. Having heavy issues with my eyes. Further, then I have an inner resistance toward my new mini wrinkles on my face. So the wrinkled face of the old woman, and further to my first gray hair. I had my first gray hair. So she also had this long gray curly hair to emphasize this hair gray. Yes, the experiences are almost always multi-layered. They are also often reflecting our outdated beliefs and definitions. So your tracks on the level of your alignment, that similarly or equal goes together. The 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 last thing that is uniting us, or the first thing that's uniting you with the encounters is your mission, be it destined or just a potential event to learn something out of it. But then you have different beliefs and definitions, like other creatures, beings, and so you're learning something. So pay attention what you're encountering, seeing, meeting. Well, and here is another physical example of seeing the non-terrestrial. So the last ones were quite physical, very physical. So, well, and here is another physical example of seeing the non-terrestrial. So it was. it was March 2010 when I was observing the glittering starry sky. In fact, lower on the horizon, it all of a sudden appeared a strange flying object. And this was happening just, let's say 300 meters from here. 300 meters from here. So, the object was elliptical in shape and was shining in orange-yellow color. It was in the approximate size of 30 feet in diameter and was moving very slowly, without sound. And it was approximately 500 feet away from my home. But the interesting thing was this, that I wasn't surprised over the scene. I had no fear. I was just observing it without any thoughts. And I was embraced by pleasant energy. Further, I was observing it for a minute when it started descending to the hill. And right then, it suddenly went into the ground. Why into the ground? Well, here is my explanation. Yes, this was a really special experience, so that I started searching on the web and discovered that these ships are already seen and are called as plasma beings or ships of lights. Search on the YouTube, they are exactly like that. So, plasma beings or ships of light. I discovered that plasma beings are not physical vessels that are driven by non-terrestrial beings, but as the name suggests, implies, as a collective consciousness consisting of the individual beings of light with higher awareness. So, this is not a spacecraft in the form of nuts and bolts. It's a spacecraft that is a sum of beings. The beings are forming the spacecraft. And yes, they are very physical. They are operating on the higher undertones of this third dimension and even beyond. They are more like a gaseous manifestation. So, these beings are of higher undertones and have the ability to travel through matter, or rather, they travel through dimensions, or rather, the ability to appear in various undertones of dimensions. These beings can on their will appear in our third dimension and then disappear into a higher undertone. In other words, they become visible when they lower their subtle matter, let's say from the astral world, fourth dimension to here, third dimension, but we can also perceive them when our perception jumps or shifts for a moment onto a higher undertone, so that we are nearing them. But which also means that we ourselves can see them, while some of other people of the lower awareness that are besides us cannot see them. So we can have this encounter, and a friend simply cannot see them. He simply cannot see them. Okay. And so when it went into the ground, there was no explosion, because it just shifted into a higher undertone. It became more subtle, and it just disappeared. Like ghosts. Ghosts can go through physical objects, the dense matter, and this is similar. Well, and after this contact with the unknown, I saw other unknown flying objects too. Well, I have many experiences, mostly on the astral, through astral insights, dreams, and these were the most physical. So the most physical ones, other flying objects. Okay. Well, many times I've seen some kind of traveling spheres of white or gray in color. How they were traveling through the sky in the middle of the night, but also during the day. They were very physical. Practically, they were physical. These spheres looked very metallic. In fact, they were very distant, and they were traveling in a straight line and completely without sound. Yes, and these were not satellites, meteors, or comets, because the spheres could also stop and then disappear, or vice versa. They could appear out of thin air, then stop and begin moving. But more often, I've seen these spheres individually, sometimes even many of them at the same time simultaneously, even with my friends and family. Like they were like stars, appearing and disappearing, but very physical, be it through the day or night. Strange. So, yes, I can say that these spheres were really UFOs, or the so-called unidentified flying objects, which means that they were either non-terrestrials or some secret projects of our military organizations. Well, but maybe there could be also projects of both the terrestrial and non-terrestrial organizations. UFO doesn't mean that it's going about non-terrestrials, aliens, extraterrestrials. It's about it means unidentified. It can be everything. Well, this is everything about this lecture uh, for today. What can I say more? These lectures from the framing of our existence up to now, they were mostly about spirituality, personal growth, in dealing with ourselves and surroundings. And now they will perhaps follow lectures more, let's say, on more grounded lectures on the monetary system, on the corrupt social organization, on the metrics, on the politics, economics, natural economy, and so on. Well, this is it. Have a nice day and nice dreams. Bye bye.